Hi, this is Sean Comley from Epic Games, and today I'm going to show you how to take information from Sequencer and put it into a custom HUD when you render out a movie render cube. Right here, I've got this take recorded cube that has some timecode printed to keyframes on it. And then if you go and you look at the renders up here on the right-hand side, you'll see that I've got the slate, I've got the actor name, and I've got the time code printed right here to the Burnin. A practical application to this is, say you've been on set and you've done a bunch of performance capture and you've rendered it all out and you send it to editorial and they make their selects and they make their cuts and they send everything back. You know what you need to send to maybe mocap processing or what you need to go get and transfer into shots. You know all of that from the render coming from editorial, and you don't have to go diving into script notes or diving into a bunch of level sequences looking for things. So this is very handy. I also try to pick a relatively complicated problem. I wanted to kind of get into sequencer scripting a little bit, which is always an adventure. And I figured this is just a good kind of practical example to dive into all this stuff. So before we get started, I wanted to give a shout out to this EDC post by Austin Chrismore, who works at Epic, called Sequencer Scripting Fundamentals. Evidently, Austin also goes by the name of Piranha Sauce. Nice. So anyways, this is an amazing EDC post. It's an amazing resource. He breaks everything down and even gives you like blueprint examples that you can go grab and copy and paste in to help yourself out. I will put a link to this in the notes, but this is a great resource. The thing about sequencer scripting, as we kind of get into this, if you're about halfway through, this video and you're just kind of looking at your screen going like, this is crazy and confusing. I must have missed something. Nope, not true. If you get to that point, then you are right on track. So sequencer scripting is an adventure, but it's also incredibly powerful. So it's a great thing to jump in and learn here. So back into this sequence here, we see that we have time code and we've got a slate, and we basically want to grab all of that and put it into a Burnin. So let's go here and let's start it up. Let's go to this blueprint class. And we're going to make a editor actor utility. There, we can name it EP, I don't know, time code, I guess. And let's jump in here. I actually use editor actor utilities quite a bit. If you're not familiar with them, they are a good way to kind of do some tooling inside the level, kind of for virtual production. So it's something to kind of look into if you'd like to make little tools for automation or just for artist efficiency, things like that. Go in here. First thing, let's make a custom event. Let's see. What do we call this? So KE stands for Kismet Event, kind of like a legacy thing in UE, but in the actual code, it's called a Kismet Event. So if you see a bunch of custom events called KE, then that's what it is. KE will be for level custom events or in editor custom events, and then CE will be for level blueprints. We'll get a little bit into that later. So let's jump into some sequencer scripting, right? And let's kind of talk through the logic. Is what we want here is we want to get this keyframe data and we want to pull it out and we want to send it to movie render queue. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to figure out what frame movie render queue is on. And we're going to have to kind of send that back into this level. Then we're going to have to sample down through the bindings and the tracks and the channels and everything. And we're going to have to get this data. We're going to have to pull it back out and send it back out to movie render queue. So right now I made this editor utility actor here. Let's go ahead and drag it into the scene. We made this custom event. Let's hit call an editor. When you have call an editor on a custom event, you get this little button, which is great to be able to run your code. If you're in 5.2, you will be able to find that button. In 5.3, the button went away. And then I cried and whined on Slack here internally, and they were gracious enough to bring the button back. So in 5.4, you will have the button. But if you're in 5.3, don't worry about it. Like, we're going to build up a whole line of code here, and we're going to be running it with that button. If you know the button, I believe what you can do is let's just put a print string here. If you go to the construction script and you call that custom event, KE time code compose. Yeah. So then what you can do is you can just nudge this thing and it'll basically reconstruct the blueprint and you'll be able to run your code. It's kind of irritating instead of hitting the button. But it's a good excuse, I guess, to upgrade to 5.4. Okay, let's go back to the event graph here. Give ourselves some room. Okay, so let's go ahead and get the current time from sequencer. Yep. Now, if you're in 5.4, this will look the same. If you're earlier 5.3, 5.2, this node will be a lot more simple for you. It'll look something like this. Basically, just plug it in, and then you just get returned an integer value on what the frame's on. They expanded the functionality of the get current time and set current time here to be able to just get a bunch of values out of it, like time code and some frame data and things like that. But we can still get the integer value. So if you right click here and split struct pin, so if you ever see a pin here that's like this shade of blue, if you can most likely split struct pin and like all this awesome data comes out of it. So let's go back here to return value frame and split it again, and then return value frame number and split it again. And then finally you get a integer value here where we can get the frame that that sequencer is on. So let's right click here and let's promote that to a variable, and let's not call it return value frame number value. Let's rename that to let's do render frame. Here we go. And then let's print this just to make sure that we've got it working. So we go here, and then let's see here, we're on frame 40. Let's change this. We're on frame 60, printed 60, go on frame 32, print 32. If you don't see anything printing up here, there's two things you can do. One, chances are I think it's like show stats will stop it from printing. Yeah, show stats will stop it from printing. So you can turn that on, or what you can do is you can just dock your output log, which I tend to do quite a bit, and you could see it print out here in the log. Okay, so let's hop back here. So in a print statement, I print a lot, so we're going to be printing a lot. Okay, so in here, also, we're going to dive into the level sequence, right? So what we want to do is we want to, on this editor utility actor, we are going to create a variable that says time code level sequence. And the type will be level sequence. Object reference. And we want to make this public and compile. So what making things public does, at least I call it public, was it visible and public and and instance editable also. So this does the same thing as the eyeball there. And then once you do that, in the actual actor itself, you see that now there is a parameter where you can feed the level sequence that we're using here. So our level sequence, what is this called? LS test. So there we go. And then let's go back here. So now that we have our sequence, we can get the bindings from that sequence. Get bindings. There we are. Let's plug this in. Okay. Now this is going to return an array. So we want to loop through the array and just get the names and stuff of them. So let's go for each loop here. And then what we want to do is we want to get, so we're going to get the name of it and then the string, and let's go ahead and print this and see what we get here. Here we go. And let's compile. I have my editor here to set on save on compile success only. So if you don't see me saving, I am saving when it's on success. So you may want to save if you don't like doing that. So here, let's go here. Let's hit our button. And we see we've got cine camera actor and we've got cube. And cine camera actor. Okay. Oh yeah, probably because of the binding. Okay, great. That's fine. So now in here, we want to, what we're going to do is let's make another variable here. Let's say, let's call it actor. So what we want to do is we want to be able to say, give me cube, right? Or floor, or whatever name of whatever actor in here in this binding that you want to be able to pull the timecode information from. Like we want to be able to set this in the level so that you can have one level, multiple level sequences, multiple movie render queues, and be able to pull information from whatever actor you want. If that doesn't make sense now, it will make sense later. Let's go ahead, and this will be a string type, just so we can name it. Let's make that public so we can get it in here. And then in here, you see now that we have this. Let's say, okay, we want cube. Okay. And now here, let's bring this in. Get, just hold down control and drag it in. And then equal, it will be string. Exactly string. Get to the lower one, just be tidy. And then here. And then let's put this, lay down a branch node. We're going to make a condition there. And then let's get tracks. Yeah, there we go. Definitely make sure that you do the get all tracks stored within this binding. And then we're going to print that. So let's grab here. Let's go back down over here. We have our binding. And we'll step back through this logic in a second. Let's make it tidy. I promise it won't be too crazy about it. And then now, let's do a for each loop because this is going to return an array. But let's get the name first because if we get the track now, it will just look like gobbledygook. So here, let's go get track row display name. And then let's print. All right. So now let's hit our button here. See take, transform, and unnamed track. So take, transform, and the unnamed track in this case is the spawn track. I don't know why it's unnamed. So what we did here is we got the bindings in this particular level sequence. Bindings are everything that's kind of dragged into this level of level sequencer. And then we went through all of the bindings and we said, if the name equals cube, then get the track and get the name of that track. Or get all the tracks and then get the name of those tracks and print them out. So it's looking through all of the bindings, which are these. It's looking for the one named cube. It found cube. And it said, okay, get all of your tracks. Now these are considered tracks. These are bindings. These are tracks. Just take that at face value. It sounds confusing, but there's a method to the madness. I mean, sequencer is such a beast and so many people use it. Very complicated and very powerful. Okay, so now coming out of here, what we want to do is we want to say, okay, anything called take. So we want to be able to isolate that, right? So let's go equal again, string. And then in here, say take. Right. So we're trying to whittle down. Okay. Like now we have an array of spawn, take, and transform. And now we want to start diving into take. Right. So let's branch that. There we go. And now we want to do something called get sections. If I can name it correctly. Sections. There we go. Okay. And let's pull this element here. This is what's spitting out. So this is our array of tracks, right? We get tracks. This is our array of the tracks. And here we're looping through the tracks. And it's looking for the one called take. And then in that, we get the sections. So let's go ahead and do a for each. And let's print that out and see what those are. Print string. Get display name. There we go. There we go. Print that. And you see movie scene take section 1. So that's not very helpful, but you still need to get the section. That's what the section is. Now, in sections are channels. So here, what we want to do is we want to get channel. Get all channels? I think get all channels. There it is. You want to get all channels, not that one. Here we go. And then let's go for each loop. And let's print that out. There we go. And now you see TC slate. Let's increase the time there. Oh. So slate, frame, second, minute, hour, subframe. So now we're getting all of our channels within the track. Great. So that's working. Okay, delete that, delete that. Okay, and here is where we start to get into casting. So let's just go ahead and drop something down real quick, and then I can try and explain what casting. Movie, scene, scripting, integer, channel. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're looping through all of the channels, and we're basically looking for channels that are of the type integer, right? So here's a channel that has string type data. This is Boolean type data. This is integer type data. And this subframe here has float type data. So as we're looping through this array here, we're saying, okay, look, just give me the stuff that is integer type data. Let's go here and let's go get keys, type integer. We are going to get the keys. Now, when you get keys here, it gets all of the keys, all of them for the whole timeline. So now what we want to do is we want to go through this array, and we want to find the keys for just the frame that we're on. Now here, we cast to movie scene integer key. All right. And now for here, we can get time integer. Okay. And now we want to compare the time to our rendered frame time that we're getting when we're getting the current frame. So remember that blue color that I said earlier. If you see that blue, you can split the struct pin. So split it again, and you get the integer value. And let's go equals. So if this get time, like as it's looping through the array of the keys, if the time of those keys equals the time that we want, our current time, then let's go up here to branch. Plug it in. Then we want to get here. We want to get the value. Get value. Up right here. Get value. In the wrong cast. Then we want to get the value of that key. And let's go ahead and print this out and see what we get. There we go. So now so you see 17, 22, 42, 2. 17, 22, 42, 2. Great. So now let's change this. 17, 22, 41, 6. Let's make sure it's working. 41, 6. Great. So it's working. So we can get the information that we want on that frame. Now, how do we structure it, right? Like we want to be able to structure it into, normal time code that everybody is used to seeing and having, right? So instead of just, kind of hoping that our code grabs this information in the right way and displaying it that way, let's go ahead and structure it ourselves. So in here, you can copy and paste, or you could just make a new variable here, but we're gonna copy, paste here. I'm gonna call this hours and then paste. Let's go minutes, paste, seconds, paste, frames, and slate. We're gonna go get them all. So let's see here. We want to set these now. What is that? Is it Alt? Yeah, Alt. So hold down Alt. I'm gonna drag in hours, minutes, seconds, and then let's see here, frames. We're probably going to ignore subframe for the time being. That's not really basic time code, but you can go get subframes if you want. When we go get the slate, I'll show you how to do alternate data types, because if you remember, subframes, I believe, are float. So it'll be a little bit different. Like you won't be able to pull them out of this chain because we're just getting integer values here. So now let's pull these up here. Delete. So now from here, let's take a branch here, and the condition will be, we want to filter for the channel name. And if we get the right channel name, then we're going to put the value into the variable. So let's go all the way back down here where we are getting the channels. And let's pull this, get channel name. And let's grab this all the way here, put a pin, keep it somewhat tiny, and grab all the way down here. So here we're getting each of these channel names, and we're going to compare it to what we want. So here, let's just go equal. We want it to be, let's see here. I'm going to be equal string. There we go. So here, we're going to get this channel name TC hour. So TC hour. So if the channel name is named TC hour, then put this value into there. And then now we just copy paste. And this is called TC minute. There we go. And we're going to feed minute. You guessed it. TC seconds. Second. And then TC frame. And we're going to feed this in the frame. Okay. Let's pull these down. This is getting messy. Oh, what's that? That's okay. And now if this returns false, then we're going to branch here. So we've fed hour. Then we're going to want to, oops, actually we don't want to feed this. We're going to want to feed minute. Delete these. And then this will be minute. This will be true. Here we go. Sorry. So we're getting the value. We're plugging into hours. If it's called minute, then we're getting the value and we're plugging it into minute. Then if this fails, if it's called seconds, we're plugging it into seconds. And if this fails, seconds. I wonder if there's an elif somewhere in the engine that I just don't know about. And we're plugging this into frames here. Nope, not that. I keep doing that. This is the condition. This is the value. There we go. We got it. Now, what we want to do is we want to go back and we want to get the slate, right? Which is of string type. So right here where we get our channels, here we go. Let's put a sequence here. And a sequence is basically do this chain and then do the second chain. And then here we're going to want to cast to movie scene scripting string channel. There we go. So now this will get all of the channels that are string type. And then from here, let's do get default. There we go. Get default string. Here, it'll return the string. And then let's grab slate here, set. And let's set the slate. There we go. Let's print this just to make sure that we got everything. Print there. And let's set this. So compile. Oh, this should print the slate. Scene 119. Great. Okay. All right, we got it. Now we've got all this mishmash of stuff. Let's go back here and put a sequence here as well, right here at the beginning. And then in one, let's make another variable here and let's call it timecode. And let's set this here. And we're going to want to make an append string node. There we go. Oh, we're going to set. So in here, we're going to put all this together in one line. So let's grab the hours, plug it in, colon, add pin, minutes, colon, grab seconds, min, colon, and let's do frames. There we go. And that's going to be the value of our time code. And then here, let's print. Let's print time code. There we go. 17, 22, 41, 6. We are correct. 17, 22, 42, 15. Okay. So now that's working. Okay. Take a deep breath. It wasn't that bad, was it? Okay. Let's compile this. And we're good. Now, let's get into the movie render queue HUD. So if let's pop open a content browser here. If we go into a movie render queue HUD that comes with movie render queue. So if you hit this button here, it'll take you to the default Burnin that's inside the engine. So what we're going to do here is we're going to copy this thing out to a safe space. Let's grab and copy this over because we're going to want to mess with this, and you probably don't want to mess with the default HUD that's in the engine. So let's name this something HUD. Let's go PC. Now let's hop in here and have a look real quick. So this is the HUD that ships with the engine. When you flip on Burnin in Movie Render Queue, this is what you get. It's just a widget here. So there's no need to be afraid of it. Here's the UI. If we go over to the graph, you'll see that it's split into, top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right. If you double click in here, you go in here and you see the code for it. You can mess around with any of this stuff. Most people come in here and hijack this stuff. Matt, kind of probably set it up for a general use case, but for our purposes, we're going to come in here and we're going to hijack the top right here. Okay. So in here, we probably going to end up nuking all of this stuff. As a matter of fact, maybe not. Let's see some of this stuff here. Let's keep that. Probably what we're just going to keep is the set text. There we go. Let's keep the set text. Let's do this, this, and this. There we go. That'll be it. So here, let's go through and we want to get all actors of class. Now you can, if this is too inefficient for you, because basically what we're going to do is we're going to say, hey, well, whatever level we're rendering right now, loop through the level and get me this actor here of this type class. If it's too inefficient for you, you can, there's other ways to grab it. You can go by tag or you can go by whatever. But most performance capture levels are pretty efficient just because you want to be able to capture at a very high speed. So we're just going to go through that right now. So we're going to just call this, we're going to call that BP. So EUA BPTC. And then in here, we only have one. If you have more than one, you can grab it a different way, but we're just going to get the first instance of the array because we only have one in here. We're guaranteed to get it. So now we want to be able to figure out what frame we're rendering in Movie Render Queue. And then what we'll do is, let's put this in a tab. What we'll do is we'll go and instead of setting, just getting the current time from sequencer, we'll actually get this time from Movie Render Queue. So right here, we're going to set render frame. Set render frame. Which, since we're pulling it out of this blueprint, it's getting the blueprint and we're pulling that out, we're actually pulling this variable. So we're passing the variables in and out of the HUD here. Okay. And then for the pipeline here, let's go get current shot frame number and then pipe it in here. So now we're going to figure out what frame Movie Render Queue is on. And then we're setting render frame here with it. So what we want to do is instead of, let's detach this here. We can move this up out of the way. We want to set current frame. Nope. Set current time. Right here. And here we need to split all these things. So split struct pen and split struct pen. And split struct pen. There we go. So now we just grab this as a get, and that's the current time. And you can just plug that back in there like that. There we go. Yeah. So we just had it this way attached so that we can hit the button and kind of troubleshoot any problems that came up. But now we want to be able to pull that data from Movie Render Queue. So let's go ahead and compile that and go back to our Movie Render Queue HUD. And then also what we want to do is we want to be able to set our level sequence as well. So this variable here, we want the level sequence to be the level sequence that we're rendering out of Movie Render Queue, not the one that we fed into the actor here. Again, we were just kind of using this to troubleshoot. So let's go back to our HUD and then let's set, what do we call that? Timecode level sequence. Set timecode level sequence. There we go. And then from here, we want to get current sequence. Let's drag it over and plug it. So now we're getting the current sequence that we're rendering out of Movie Render Queue, and we're passing it into our blueprint here, and we're setting this right there. So instead of using this, we're using this. Okay, Let's go back to our HUD here. And then now the problem is, how do we get movie render queue to hit this button, right? Like as we're moving, as it's moving through sequencer and it's rendering, how do we get it to say, hey, figure out what this keyframe data is? Hit the button, right? So how do we get movie render queue to hit the button? And what we can do is, what's great is there's actually a CVAR or a console command that we can use to fire off custom events. So go here, execute console command. And in the command here is KE star and then whatever the custom event name is. And in our case, it's KE timecode. So what this is doing, KE is saying, okay, run the custom event called KE timecode. Star is just search through all of the blueprints. If you've got a bunch of blueprints, you can specifically state the blueprint. It's like blueprint dot whatever. I've messed around with it. It's not necessarily any faster or slower. But you know, if you have a million custom events that are named the same thing, then you probably want to go call it specifically. Now, KE runs it from editor utilities or blueprint actors. If you have something up in your level blueprint here, a custom event in here, this will be a CE instead of a KE. It's kind of a best kept secret, even though it's not a secret, but some people don't know about it. By the way, you can also put this in movie render queue too. By the by, if you go here, you go console variables, and you do a start console command, you can run a CVAR in movie render queue. So some people don't know that. Anyways, so now we're going to run this CVAR, which will run this custom event here every single frame. And it's going to get the timecode value and it's going to set all of these variables. Nope. Now, what we want to do is we want to put it, where's our set text? Now we want to set text into that part of the HUD. So what we're going to do here is we're going to grab from here again, and we're going to get slate. We're going to get object, or what do we call it? Get actor. We should have done something other than actor, but there we go. Get actor. And then we're going to get timecode. There we go. And now let's do the same thing where let's do string append and let's put it in the format that we want it to be. So let's go slate and then plug in the slate. And let's add this. And we're going to do object, plug in the object. And then this will be timecode. Make sure you put spaces before and after. And then here, let's run set text. And then let's put this in. Okay. And let's compile and save. Make sure everything is compiled and saved. Now let's go over here. We have our level sequence in here. Let's go to our Burnin. And what do we call this? HUD TC. Okay. And let's click OK. Let's go here. Let's clean out our renders. Make sure that we have one that's actually working. And let's run this. Okay. Let's go into our renders here. And here we go. Cube, timecode. And there we go. We're getting our timecode. So, you know, there's definitely more efficient ways to go about doing this for sure. But, you know, this is just a example of a tool that you can write where you can pull information from your level or from actors in your level or from level sequence and, you know, kind of pass information back and forth from movie render queue. It's potentially, you know, very powerful, can save a bunch of time, can really help you get organized when you're on set with your performance captures, or if you're not doing performance capture, but you can print any sort of information from your level. Like, you know, say you're in dailies and you want to print what version of effects you're on, or what version of animation something is, or what sort of skeletal mesh something is. You can print that all to the HUD. So hopefully that helped and that was informative. Yeah, see you next time.